Welcome back to the Christian Capitalist Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Rich Sanders. So glad to be joined by my friend Chris Thomason today at Insight Studios in Franklin, Tennessee. We're going to get into Chris's business, Insight Studios, and how he brings faith to work every day in just a minute. But first, as you know, this is a movement, and if you'd like to find out more about our movement at Christian Capitalists, of the Christian Capitalists, please check us out on our website, christiancapitalist.life. And if you like this episode, please tag us, share it, and follow us on all the different social media outlets. We love to grow the message of the gospel of hard work and generous giving to the poor and needy in the name of Jesus. But in the meantime, I'm so glad to be joined with you this morning.
So glad to be here, Rich. Thanks for asking me.
You're welcome. And we are in a really cool place. I was telling Chris, this will be the best sound that we've had on the podcast yet, because we are in Studio B at Insight Studios in Franklin, Tennessee. This is a very high-tech control board. I hope that y'all can see all the different bells and whistles that we have here, along with all of this technology in the screen here, and some low tech. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about Insight Studios.
Yeah, well, I will start with Insight Media, if that's okay, because it's included in that. And so, so we started the company in 2005. So this is 21 years for us. And so we are a media company, and we do several different things. We have different divisions, and the studios are one of those, and I'll get to that in a second. And so we do music and production on that sort of things. And I've been doing that for almost 40 years. I've been in the music industry most of my career in doing that. Then we have a live event simulcast company, or as the kids today call it, streaming. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's the same thing. And I can tell you more about that if you want to know. And then we have a film and TV development side of what we do. And we have a partner on that. It's Triple Horse Studios in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. This is my buddy Carl Horseman. We've been working together for 30 plus years and doing different videos and films and documentaries and different things. So we do that. And then the studios are the fourth division of the company and the newest division. We bought this facility 5 years ago. Oh, wow. And it's a 22,000 square foot building on 3 acres here. And the studios were purpose-built as studios, which is very unique in the city of Nashville. And that's where we are, is in Nashville, just south of Nashville. And a lot of the studios here were existing buildings that they took and modified. Nothing wrong with that, but there are certain things you can't do if you're not building it from the ground up. Mm-hmm. And what I should say is this was built in 2003, so it's 23 years old. Mm. But it's a world-class facility. I tell everybody I get to brag on it because I didn't build it, we just bought it, right? And so
exactly. But I remember us when I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was speaking of the building and the quality of the building. I remember for those of y'all who have had a chance to listen to the Christian Capitalist audiobook, I recorded that here. The day after Easter in 2024, and just finished yesterday recording Tools of the Bible. The sound here is magnificent. Yeah. And I remember in touring 2 years ago, you told me that it's literally built into the foundation of this building.
It is. The foundation of the building is a concrete slab, for foundational, but then it sits on a rubber fitting about like this. And so there's no vibration in the entire building. And then all the rooms are rooms inside of rooms. They're sealed rooms. And so there are, for the basic general idea, there's air pockets and things. So there's no access to like above the ceiling or anything like that. The ceilings are on these cables with spring-loaded fittings, so there's no vibration in there. And so the architect, the guy who designed this, is a guy named Russ Berger. And there's only a handful of companies and people in the world that design world-class studios, and Russ is one of those guys. He's done about 400 studios around the world. And,
wow.
And he would tell you that this is in his top 5% of all studios he's ever done. So again, we get to brag on it, and we're grateful God has allowed us to be the stewards of this facility. And we have 5 studios here. Mm-hmm. The large room here is the second largest room here in town as far
Meaning
as
in Nashville.
In Nashville. We can hold about a 35-piece orchestra. The largest room here in town is Ocean Way, which is holds about a 65-piece orchestra in there. And so a lot of great studios here in Nashville, and we're just honored to be one of them.
And you're unique in many ways. We'll get into that during our conversation today. But before we leave off of the studio, one of the things that I love so much is the quality of the sound and the dedication that y'all have to the sound. And the word has gotten out. You have all kinds of people come to Insight Studios to record music and audiobooks.
Yeah, it's the uniqueness of, even though our company is founded, and we can talk about mission and vision and all of that. Our company is a faith-based, Christian company in what we do. The studios are as well, because we own them, but at the same time, they're a world-class facility. So we have people, whoever wants to rent time in the studios and utilize the facility. So about 50% of what we do is post audio for film and TV, which means we do a lot of what they call ADR, which is audio dialogue replacement, where the actors are on set and they do the things, but they need to fix some lines. For some reason, it wasn't recorded properly. A plane flew over and they're having to do something, or a truck drove by, or they're needing to add lines to the script or whatever. So the actors actually come in and react their lines, and there's a lot of technology around doing that, and as you can imagine, and so we do that. We do mixings for film. The room we're sitting in is our certified Dolby Atmos room, which is now a requirement for anything on what they call home entertainment, which would be Apple, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon. Any of those now require a Dolby Atmos deliverable.
What does Dolby Atmos mean? I remember us talking about this a little bit 2 years ago, because first of all, I mentioned this at the outset. There's some pretty complicated technology behind us here. And if you look, these gigantic speakers on either side of the screen, this is a really powerful studio. But what does Dolby Atmos refer to?
Yeah, I'll make this brief because it could be long and it could be complicated. But the short version is for most of our life and the age we are, we've been listening in stereo. Stereo started in the late 1960s. And when you're mixing stereo of any audio, you mix in two ways. You mix vertically and horizontally. Vertically are frequencies. So cymbals live up here, bass lives down here. Always our problem has been when we've been mixing are the middle parts, which are vocals, guitars, keyboards, strings. All those live kind of in the frequencies in the middle. So when stereo came around, that we could then mix horizontally, which meant we could put a guitar over here and we could put a keyboard over here, so you could separate things out where you can hear. Interestingly enough, not the way God created us to listen. We don't listen in stereo. We actually listen binaurally, and which means binaurally, which means we can hear stuff right over the top of our head, and we can hear stuff below us, and then you can hear everything at every point in between. So we're not limited. If you're listening to something and somebody walks in behind us, we can know where that's coming from. Or if you're walking in the woods and there's a bird up in this tree to your right, you know where that's coming from, right? And that's the way we listen. We don't listen just in this box of vertical and horizontal.
It's funny you say that. You can hear the bird over your right shoulder unless you're wearing Beat headphones, and then you can't hear a fire truck.
That's right. Yeah. Or if you're in here, there are no birds in here, right? So you can't hear anything outside of this room, right? And so that's the uniqueness of how we listen. Well, along came, and everybody kind of knows this, is that along came surround sound. You hear surround sound, and usually that's either 5.1 or 7.1. If what 5.1 means is you have three speakers in front of you, left, center, right. You have two speakers behind you, and then your 0.1 is your subwoofer. The issue with that is you're still mixing horizontally. So if you're in a theater or if you have surround sound in your home, you can move the speakers up higher so it sounds like it's coming over your head, but it's still not. It's still mixing horizontally. So if a plane flies over your head in the film that you're watching, it's still coming on the sides.
So Dolby Atmos is a new way for us to listen.
Yeah. So when Dolby created the software for this, what they did was we record everything when we're doing a movie or a music project. Everything's recorded on separate tracks. So you'll have a vocal on one track. You'll have a guitar on one track. And so you're able to manipulate all those things, right? Yeah. So everything is separated when we're recording. So what Dolby did was you take those tracks and you put them into the piece of software that they have created called the Dolby Renderer. And now those tracks become metadata. They become objects. And so then you can mix to the space in the room instead of mixing to the channels in the room, which is what we've always done with stereo or surround sound. And so Atmos actually stands for atmosphere. So you're mixing to the atmosphere of the room. And so it actually then simulates the way we listen, which is binaurally, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And so so that's the beauty of Atmos. And the other piece of it is scalable. So whatever you do in this room will scale up to a Dolby Atmos theater, or this is the reason Apple and others are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on this category. Apple calls it spatial, by the way, is their word for it, spatial audio. And spatial,
okay.
Not in the South.
You're not spatial.
Yeah, you're not very spatial. Yeah, but so they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this category because it not only scales up, but it also scales down, which means all of their new headphones are spatially enabled, and in being spatially enabled, which Apple and others too, but Apple mainly wants to sell you headphones.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
really cool though. The thought that you could, given what you just described about how it's literally the sound surrounds the listener.
That's right.
That you could still accomplish that even with just two headphones.
Yeah.
That's really
and
cool.
So it's what Apple would call and Dolby would call too an immersive experience. So if you're sitting on a plane and you have these special headphones and you're watching a film and the murderer walks in behind you, you hear him walking in behind you.
Ew,
right?
So that's creepy and cool.
I know, right? And so now they're doing this with audiobooks, by the way. We won't do this with your tools of the Bible. We won't be spatially putting tools around you, which might be cool. I don't know. Yeah. But you can do it that way. You can do it with audiobooks, novels, and that sort of thing. And now they're starting to do it with podcasts, by the way. So you may want to upgrade at some point to do spatial podcasts.
Okay,
right?
That's good to know.
And but the tipping point is actually going to be automobiles. They're starting last year. Mercedes started putting them in their high-end automobiles, and Dolby is saying by 2032 to 2035, you won't buy a new car without having a Atmos system in it.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So nevertheless, even though Dolby's projecting that a lot of automobiles are going to have this system, your Dolby Atmos system here at Insight is unique.
It is unique in Nashville in that we are geared more in this room toward film and TV, which, as everyone knows, Music City is Nashville. And so most of the other Atmos rooms in town are geared toward music mixing, which we can do both here. We've got actually have two Atmos rooms here. But this room we're sitting in 4K projection. We're 9.1.4 in this room as far as speaker configuration. And it is a certified what Dolby would call home entertainment, which I mentioned earlier about all of the streaming services and doing that.
Well, if your client base or contracts with the people that you record for allow, can you give us some examples of projects you've worked on in film and TV in the last couple of years that our audience would recognize? Yeah,
well, I would lean more toward telling you about, well, there are kind of three categories of things that we do here. We do the film and TV post audio, and we do audiobooks, which you've experienced here, and then the rest of it is music of some sort. So our clientele base is kind of twofold. We have studios, film studios, independent film makers, that sort of thing. And then we have book publishers for audiobooks and independent authors like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have record labels and independent artists and musicians that come in, right? And so the clientele, like on the film and TV side, some of our clients are Disney is a big client of ours, Universal, Paramount, Sony.
I've heard of those guys.
Yeah, and so that's a large portion of our film business. Netflix, we've done things for Netflix and some other services as well. On the book audio side, we do a lot for HarperCollins and Simon & Schuster. There's a company called One Audiobooks. It's a big client as well. And then on the music side, record labels, we work with Warner and Sony and Universal in that. And so some of the artists who've recorded here, CeCe Winans, Carrie Underwood, Keith Urban, TobyMac, Chris Tomlin. So a lot of various artists that come through as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as a result, not only are you dealing with a lot of folks in Nashville who are, I guess you could call secular in terms of their approach to music, but a lot of faith-based.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the same would be true on the film and TV side.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've had a lot of each side of that. And part of that has to do with you're in Nashville. Nashville, on the music side, the kind of the two main music industry sides of things that have been here for a long time are country music, of course, and then Christian music is most of the major labels are based here.
I'm smiling because I was going to say, I remember somebody maybe back in the 80s, no, this is the 70s, WKRP in Cincinnati was one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
And they were talking with a guy from another station, and he said, we play both kinds of music, country and Western. So I thought
you thought I was going there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But the great thing about Nashville is there's so many people moving here. It's changed in the last 10 years. There's now a wide variety of music here, and not just country and Christian anymore. So there's a lot going on.
So tell us about the outdoor part, the festivals where you're, or outdoor events.
Well, they're not all outdoor.
Not all outdoors.
Inside events, we started 16 years ago in 2010. And we were working with a company that was called CCN, the Church Communications Network. Mm-hmm. And they were doing events and then simulcasting those events to churches around the country and some outside the country. And really, those events were really so that churches could be engaged. If they didn't have the facilities or the ability to bring in events on their own, they could simulcast an event. Mm-hmm. At that time, it was all delivered by satellite. And in the world that was changing, of course, internet was making a play for that. And so in 2010, we took over what they were doing and flipped that to a internet-based delivery system for live and on demand. And even that has changed in the last 16 years dramatically. Mm-hmm. A lot changed after COVID, of course, in that and how technology has come along and what's happening in the streaming world. Our purpose in that is to work with partners, ministries, and organizations to help amplify what they're doing and get it to a wider audience, and then to serve churches to bring credible content that they can then use to encourage their community, maybe a specific subject matter that a pastor is trying to develop in his congregation, or something he doesn't feel the expertise to talk about himself, but he knows that this is a needed moment in their life as a congregation. So 16 years ago, we took this over. When we took it over, it had about 8,000 churches in the database that was active there. Not every church does every event. We've grown that to a little over 30,000 churches.
Wow.
In the process. And we've got a whole team, and all they're doing every day is talking to churches and organizations about events that we're doing.
Events, and just so I understand, these are events that y'all are doing, and then offering to have these events, I guess, streamed at these particular churches?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, there's been a wide variety of types of events, and usually it's an organization that's either doing an event or wanting us to help them develop an event, right? And so, for instance, I would put these in categories as well. We talked about categories earlier for the types of things we do at the studio. We've done 12 plus apologetic events with Lee Strobel and Mark Middleberg. And those have ranged from everything to unpacking atheism, to the case for Christ, to different types of things where Lee and Mark would have guests on with certain topics, and we would do an event that then churches would bring into their church, right?
Right. I gotcha. So you have the event, let's say in Nashville.
Yeah.
And then you live stream it out.
That's right.
And pastors say, hey, we're going to put this on the screen in the fellowship hall. Everybody come watch.
Yeah, or the main auditorium, depending on the type of event it is.
Gotcha.
And so we've done apologetic events. We've done marriage events with Family Life and Doctors Les and Leslie Parrott, who are big in that world of marriage events. We've done women's events. For years, we did the Women of Faith events before they kind of went away. And then we've done Extraordinary Women. We've done some events with Sheila Walsh. And then for the past few years, we've been doing all the Beth Moore Living Proof Live events. And,
wow.
And so a lot of that. We, for 10 years, did an event with Stephen Kirsch Chapman's organization called Show Hope, which is geared toward adoptive and foster families. And so it's a great example of what I was talking about. So let's say you're a pastor in a church and you have families who are in your church that have adopted or are doing foster care, but you don't feel really equipped to help them because maybe you've not been in that world. This was a great event to bring in to help encourage the people in your congregation, give them practical advice on what they were doing, and a great way for you to follow up as a pastor and help these families. And so that's a very niche thing that we're talking about, but it is one of those much needed things in there. We also do CeCe Winans Women's Conference every year, which will be happening this year in July. It's called Generations Conference, and it's really for daughters and moms and grandmothers and aunts and that sort of thing. It's a great conference.
That's great. And where is that going to be?
That's going to be here in Nashville.
Okay.
It happens here in Nashville every year. And then we do an event this will be our 6th year working with an organization called the Legacy Coalition that does grandparenting summits. And the grandparenting summit, it was really started by a guy named Larry Fowler, who was in charge of Awana for about 20 plus years. And Larry moved out of Awana to move closer to his kids and his grandkids. And he wanted to be a part of his grandkids' life. They were out in California. He was living somewhere in the Midwest. And when he moved out there, they started looking at this and realized there were not very many resources for grandparents. And so 10 years ago, they started the Legacy Coalition and the Grandparenting Summit. And it has just been great. And so they're really encouraging churches to start grandparenting ministries in their church. And there are incredible statistics about this. Barna says that most of us who came to Christ, who are Christians at this point, came to Christ before the age of 8. And so it used to be, when I was younger, that was a much higher number, but now it's the age of 8. And so grandparents, Christian grandparents, have a really vested interest in discipling their grandkids and wanting to help them.
Fascinating.
And so, and now there are a lot of grandparents raising kids as well. And so it's a really not only unique ministry, but I think very impactful and powerful ministry. And so, so
your company gets in there, and you and your team, you record it, you live stream it, and then do you also record it so that if, let's say, a pastor says, 2 years from now, I want to do a grandparenting ministry, but I want to go back to the beginning and show some of the early stuff. Is it all recorded in-house somewhere?
It is. We do live and on demand. Some of that, it depends on what they're doing and how they're doing it. But some of that, they don't go back that far. Like you may be able to access the year that you're in, but you may not be able to go back in multiple years. Depends on what the ministry wants to do.
Gotcha.
So, some of those, like Show Hope, they've got a whole catalog of what we've done over the 10 years, and they do allow people to come in and get those resources.
That's cool.
Right?
That's cool.
And do that. So it kind of depends on the focus and what they're doing. I would say, for us, and it varies. Sometimes we're producing the entire event, not just the simulcast part. So we're doing from the very beginning, helping market the event, of course, to our database and helping them do what they're doing, registrations, licensing, if that's needed, then production of the live event, which means all creative from the beginning, understanding what the content is, who the speakers are, what the music is going to be, producing the live event, and then simulcasting, streaming the event as well.
So you're right. I mean, that's a lot more. That's event management.
Yeah. And so we're kind of a turnkey operation for an organization if they want that. Sometimes they've already got the production all in place and they just want us to be the broadcast partner, the simulcast partner. But sometimes, a good bit of the time, actually, we're doing the whole thing.
Isn't that cool?
So, yeah.
And so when getting over to the third part, the music part, when you have musicians come here and record, how far does that go? Do you all actually release albums here, or is that more the...
We can. We are on our side.
I know that's old language.
Yeah.
Release an album, but you know what I mean.
No, it's true though. I mean, an album is just a collection of songs, right? So, I mean, it's still called that for most people.
Oh, okay.
And so, what we do as a company, we can either help manage the production process, or we can actually do the full blown, like help them develop what they're doing and then release that. We actually don't do as much of that as we used to. And the reason for that is usually we're helping people develop what they're doing more than being a label as far as that goes.
Gotcha.
We can do it, and we do it for certain things, but we don't do it like we're not a major label or anything. We're not trying to do that.
I can't help but think of music and your studio, and most of our audience knows that the Sanders family is very baseball oriented. Because of our son Will, who's in the minors for now with the Chicago Cubs.
I've seen him pitch.
Yes, you have.
Right.
You and your wife Jean were able to join us last year when the Cubs played the Sounds.
That's right.
But there's a baseball player who's kind of transformed himself into a musician, and y'all have been involved in that.
Yeah. So this started for us a little over 2 years ago. I had a buddy who called me up and he said, "Hey, I want you to meet this guy I'm working with." He's my buddy is Gary Baker. He's a very famous songwriter, producer. And he said, "I want you to meet this guy that I'm working with." He said, "I'm doing this project, album project, on this baseball player." And I was like, "Baseball player, music? I don't know, Right. And so
I'm thinking of Nuke LaLoosh singing along in the bus in Bull Durham, right?
That's right. Exactly right. So Gary said, "Man, I'd love for you to meet him." So he brought the person here, and his name is Adam Wainwright, and he's known as Wayno to St. Louis Cardinal fans. And he pitched for the Cardinals for 16 years.
Wow.
And
I had no idea he was with the Cardinals that long.
And All-Pro several times, won over 200 games. And my understanding is there's only 120 major league pitchers that have ever done that.
Ever, yeah.
And they're saying that anybody won't do it again, except your son. He'll probably do it. But the way that they rotate pitchers now, the way that they do it's different than it used to be. And so they're saying that. And then he and his catcher, which is called a battery, the pitcher and the catcher, I'm learning all these terms myself. Yadi Molina is his name, another all-star guy.
And very popular. Both those dudes are very popular with the Cardinal faithful.
Yes. Well, they set the Major League Baseball record for the most starts of a battery, the pitcher and catcher together, in history. Wow. And so he's very famous. Of course, won World Series, National League playoffs, all of those things. And he was known for his curveball, which they call a Charlie. I didn't know if do you know that? I mean, of course you know that. Your son pitches, and so his nickname is Uncle Charlie is his name because that's what he was. He was famous for his curveball. Well, he was retiring from baseball, but during that period of time when he was with the Cardinals, he actually started playing the guitar and writing songs, and he is an amazing guy. By the way, has had a great impact on many lives because of his faith. And by the way, talk about taking your faith to work. Adam was very diligent in that and what he did. So he started writing songs and felt like God had kind of led him down this path. So what he's doing is country music. It's not Christian. It's faith in his lyrics. He talks about his family and his life and all of that. It's all involved in that. But we did the first album, released that, and so somebody asked Adam one time, it's like, well, now you're doing music, what would be the World Series of music for you? And he said, well, in country music it would be the Grand Ole Opry. And so we've gotten him on the Grand Ole Opry twice. He's been there twice, and right now we're in the middle on our film and TV development side. We're finishing up a documentary on his life, and that will be finishing that up in the next couple of months. We've been working that a little over a year on that process. And so it's going to start from his early life. He was drafted into Major League Baseball right out of high school. And so drafted by the Braves, traded to the Cardinals. And so it's a lot. You can't talk about him without talking about baseball. But then we're going to lead to what he's doing now. Which is in the music side.
That's so cool.
So, yeah, it's pretty great.
Well, and so Chris, having a guy like Adam Wainwright here is such a terrific way to express how insight really affects not just Nashville, but America through the way that the film and the music and the audiobooks are all seen and heard and experienced by millions of people. You can feel, as a customer, you can feel the difference here. And I think a lot of that has to do with the mission that you set and the culture that you create at Insight.
Sure.
Tell everybody a little bit about the mission. Starting with, why is Insight spelled so funny?
Well,
for those of y'all can't see, it's IN:CIITE. We just finished editing Tools of the Bible. And my beautiful wife, Rebecca, our editor-in-chief, has read it 5 different times, beginning to end. She would have a big problem with that because Insight spelled wrong.
Well, there are some practical reasons for that as well. Let me tell you about mission first, and then that will lead us to why that exists the way it does. In 2005, I was ending kind of my portion of my career. I was with a company called Integrity Music for 14 years, and I was over the 5 record labels there. And so it's product development, production, studios, music publishing, and then ultimately distribution and marketing. And my wife, Jean, and I felt like God was leading us out of that space. And so it was a real process. But part of that process was, why? Why? Because I didn't have a reason to leave, except we felt like God was telling us. And so what was the why?
Pretty big reason.
Yeah. It's a big reason. And it would have been easier to ignore it. But we really felt like God was leading us into the next phase of what we were supposed to be doing, our calling. And so this goes back to, and it's really interesting to talk about why, because it really does flow into your Christian Capitalist book and who we are as people, right? And so we had a pastor in college, and he used to say this all the time. And the first few times he said it, I was kind of like, what is he talking about? And what is this doing? But he used to say this: there are only 2 things that are in existence on this earth right now that are going to last forever. And those 2 things are the souls of people and the Word of God. So it matters every day how you invest in those 2 things.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
So when you start thinking about that, there are two questions then for each of us. Why are you here? That's the first question.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is there something you would give your life for right now? And do you have an answer for that? And if you don't have an answer for that, then guess what? That's the side of the why that you need to be asking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we fast forward, we're at this and we're feeling like God. So I'm realizing this and I'm going, okay, where's our family going? What are we doing? God, what do you have for us? And so out of that, I won't take you, we don't have time to go through the whole process, but it was a 9-month process. And I came out of that with our why. And this is it. This is the mission statement. Helping build God's kingdom by creating remarkable experiences through media products and events that are culturally and spiritually relevant. Okay?
Okay.
And so that is taking the why
That's
God
beautiful.
put me here
Mm-hmm.
and what the expertise and talent God gave me. I'm not saying it's better or worse than anybody else's, but I'm saying this is what God called me to do. And so that comes in 3 core values of what we do. Helping build God's kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
which is serving and facilitating. Remarkable experiences through media products and events, experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And the last part is that are culturally and spiritually relevant. So whatever we're doing, whether it be a music product, a film product, an audiobook, who are you talking to? Let's be relevant to them. Are they 5 years old? Are they 50 years old? Are they 100
Mm-hmm.
years old?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is, we have to be cognizant of the impact of that message and how we build that.
And building the kingdom through
That's
that
exactly
message.
right.
I love that.
So that is the mission of Insight Media. When we founded
Beautiful.
the company, that is still the mission. So anything we do filters through that mission. So I always tell people it's really easy. Great ideas are out there. There's a ton of them. And we've had people approach us. We've got this great idea and we want to do this. And what we have to do is when somebody approaches us is we have to filter it through our mission. If it filters through the mission and works, then we're in,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we're called to do this.
Right.
We're all in. The answer is yes.
Right.
I always tell my kids that. Always the answer is yes. You figure it out, what you're going to do. But if it doesn't fit the mission statement, it doesn't matter how much money it is. It doesn't matter what the project is or who are the people you're working with. If it doesn't fit the mission, we have to throw it out.
Then no dice.
Okay. So that's the why. We have the why, right? So now you ask me about the name.
Thank you for telling us about the mission of the organization.
Sure.
I think that's beautiful. And the fact that your mission statement includes building the kingdom is exactly what the Christian capitalist is all about. Because part of our philosophy is when we go to work, we're glorifying God through our work.
Yes.
And it sounds like you do that every single day.
Yeah. Well, we work to, right? I mean, that's our goal. That's our mission. That's our vision of that. And so then the question is, how do we do that, right?
Right.
Well, we've talked a little bit about the divisions of the company and what we do, but really you asked about the name, right? And you mentioned
IN:CIITE, everybody.
So there's a couple of things. The practical thing of this is, I don't know if any of you starting businesses or a company or anything that you try to do, if you try to find a name, to create a name for something and get the URL, that's an issue. Yeah. So it's really hard these days to come up with something that, is that. So I had some friends who tell me, you've got people like Disney, they've got it easy. They just put Disney in front of everything, Disney parks, Disney animation, right. Disney, whatever, they just use the word, right? But for those of us who don't have that, we have to look at things. And so a friend of mine said, the easiest way to do this is to make up something, right? But I didn't want it to be just something made up that didn't have any purpose to it, because we're being so purposeful about why we're doing what we're doing, right? So the word insight, of course, is spelled only with one I, usually, right? And it gets a bad rap, that word, right? Because it's usually used with riots. They incited a riot, right? But the word actually just means a catalyst. It means starting something. It means going. So really that fits with what we do, because we're starting with creativity and moving that into what these projects are. So we do want to be a catalyst for that. Not in a bad way, not in a rioting way, but in a good way, right? And so that was one thing. The next thing is I wanted the word to reflect how we do what we do, why we do. So how do we do it, right? So if you look at the IN at the beginning, is what our purpose is to make an indelible mark. We want to make a permanent mark on anything that we're working on.
Gotcha.
Right? And so then there's the colon. It's a great graphic element, but also it constitutes, there's a list coming. So how do we make an indelible mark? Well, through creativity, innovation, impacting, transforming experiences.
It's an acronym.
It's an acronym.
I had no idea.
Yes,
that's awesome. Right. Okay.
And so then we have our icon, our logo icon, which if you look at it closely, it's an upside down exclamation point.
Oh.
And so
it sure is.
So it just means we're looking we're looking at things a bit differently than we would, from
Indeed.
a creative standpoint.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So there you go. You've got the why and you've got the how.
You've got the why and the how.
That's right.
All right. So speaking of how, though, many of our listeners are small business owners and entrepreneurs. For them, for you, for me, as small business owners who are Christians, it's relatively straightforward. I won't say easy, but it's relatively straightforward to set the mission, to set the culture by saying, everybody, this company is founded on the principles of Jesus, and this is how we're going to go forward. What do you say to those who are not in a business that is faith-based? How do you talk to folks about bringing their faith to work when they work at a Fortune 500 company, or they work for a small business that's not owned by a follower of Christ? What do you think of that?
Well, there are two things on that, right? The first thing is I'll give you kind of my life verse, and what that is Proverbs 22:29, and that verse is, "Do you see a man who is skilled in his labor? He will stand before kings and not common men." And so this is a promise of God. And no matter what you're doing, if you become skilled at what you're doing, he is the one who will promote you, right? So how does that apply? It applies if you become skilled at what you're doing, whether you're a plumber, an electrician, or an accountant, or a data programmer, or whatever you do, if you become skilled in it, that is honoring to God in whatever you do. And how do we as people influence, people for the kingdom of God? It's all in relationships. So wherever you're planted, become skilled at what you do and develop relationships.
And we're a big fan here at the Christian Capitalist and in the Sanders family of talking about leading by example.
Yeah.
I think you can easily show the light of Christ to those in your work environment, even if you never host a Bible study, even if you don't have a cross on the top of your door or your cube, right? But I love that the notion of being skilled in what you do, because we were just talking about that yesterday in recording the audio version of Tools of the Bible. These two guys named Bezalel and Aholiab, right?
Easy names.
Easy names. But God called them specifically to help Moses build the Ark of the Covenant and all the things they need. And they were held up because of their skill. And God took notice.
And when you do that, it automatically, whether you're speaking and citing scriptures or whatever you're doing, if you're doing your job well, you're also giving glory to God because you're using the talents and abilities that he gave you. And all of that works through you. We as Christians believe the Holy Spirit, God lives in us. So as we're doing that, we're actually accomplishing the things that God has called us to do. The why of why we're here, right?
I love it.
And so that's the whole thing for me anyway.
And I think that's beautiful. We talk about a vocation and a calling, and so many times people hear those phrases, just like insight, and think vocation and calling, just like insight is usually in the same phrase as riot or violence. Vocation and calling is some kind of clergy-based or ministry-based, work. But what you've just explained is one of the core principles of our movement, and that is you can do anything. You can be on a boat in the Gulf of America,
that's right,
fishing for shrimp, or you can be plowing a field in Iowa, and you're still glorifying God with your hand at the plow or your hand at the rudder.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're on board with that.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, because it's what we talked about earlier. The two questions we have to answer is, why are you here, and what would you give your life for? Right? And so that institutes your calling. But as we also know, our brain is left brain and right brain, right? And so our left brain solves complicated problems, right? And our right brain solves complex problems. Those are the questions you can't put into Google or AI. Those are the ones we have to put in there. Why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing? Who is God? All of those things, that's the antenna to God, is on the right side of our brain. So when we're doing this and you're trying to decide how I'm going to do what I do, the complicated side of your brain is going to help you solve that. That's what God gave it to you for, right? It's calculations. It's what I do technically for a living, the expertise, the skill of coming to that. But then there are these questions that the left side of your brain can't answer. And like I said, Google and AI can't answer for you, which is the things that God has put in you to do. And that is actually the relationships with humans.
Well, and so speaking of relationships of humans, we talk about in the Christian capitalist movement, kind of the twin pillars of hard work and generous giving.
That's right.
When Jesus tells us to love our neighbors, the way we interpret that through work is make all the money you want, but don't forget to give some to the poor and needy. And the motto is, the more we make, the more we give. You do so much work here at Insight for churches and ministries. And it sounds to me like in the way that you serve them, in the way that you do work for them, you're also helping the poor and needy. Yes. But do you have any particular charities that you either work with or like to support?
Well, we work with so many ministries, and there's so many good things out there, right? And I would say it depends on the category of things that you feel like God's called you to be a part of, right? For instance, we talked about earlier, on the simulcast side, we'd worked with Stephen Curtis Chapman's organization, Show Hope. It's so incredible what they do is they scholarship families to adopt children.
Wow.
Right? So
I
that's,
didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
It's incredible. That's what they've done for 25 years. And I actually don't know the statistic, but it's thousands of families who have actually adopted kids because they were scholarshiped through that, right?
Isn't that something?
And so when you're looking at those things, you start going, oh my gosh, this is a huge need in that. You and I talked about briefly before we were talking about this, about solving the world's greatest problems. And there are these categories of ministries and things, And of course, there are so many churches that are also in our world that we do. So I don't really want to point out a bunch of those because I'll leave out somebody.
Exactly.
I'll leave out.
There's only 30,000. Come on, man, step it up.
Yeah. I'll leave out somebody, and I don't want to do that. But what I would say is obviously, if you've got a category in your family or something that you feel passionate about, there is an organization that you can become a part of.
So you are a man of God, and I know a student of Scripture. The Holy Spirit's calling me to ask you, if you don't mind. Yeah, I've got some glasses here if you need help, but I would like you to read the theme of our movement and our book, which is here from 2 Timothy. I'm just called to do this because of what you just said. This kind of summarizes, and where I'd like to finish our interview today is with this last part about life that really is life. But would you read it for us, please?
Yeah. This is from Paul's letter to Timothy, chapter 6, verses 17 through 19. As for those who in the present age are rich, command them not to be haughty or to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but rather on God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, generous and ready to share, thus storing up for themselves the treasure of a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of the life that really is life.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's good. And you've got the life that really is life right here every single day.
Well, thank you.
Including, by the way, your beautiful bride has joined us here in the studio. Jean, you don't need to get on the camera, but we're so glad to see you and say hey this morning. You're very much part of this, and your influence is here all throughout our discussion and time together today. Amen. So, Chris, thank you for reading that. What do you think about that? The life that really is life.
Yeah, it's exactly what we've been talking about, right? I mean, without referencing that at the beginning, it really is the thing. It's like, where is real life? Well, real life is in the things of God, right? And you can express that no matter what you do or where you are. This happens to be our life and what we're doing here from a media standpoint, involved in all sorts of media. But I truly believe that you can be a plumber and give glory to God.
Exactly. And you can be a widow who has 2 coins that together aren't even worth a penny.
Absolutely.
And give them, and Jesus calls you out and
Absolutely.
says, she gave more than everybody else.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
So, Chris, as we conclude our time together today, what does it mean to you to be a Christian capitalist?
Yeah, well, that's a great question in what we do, because most days I am involved in things that have to do with the things of God and kingdom building, right? And so what for me that means is bringing my best every day, to be skilled at what I do, to bring the expertise, helping all of these ministries and organizations in what we do. As far as the studio goes, the studio, as we talked about, serves a wide variety, not just Christian-based products that come through here. And so what we want to do here is, number one, be excellent at what we do. We want this to be a world-class studio. So we have clients from Los Angeles and New York and London and different places all around the world. When they walk in this facility, wherever they have been working in the world, in the high places of media and entertainment, when they walk in this place, we want them to feel like they've walked into a place. Oh, these guys know what they're doing and they do it well, right? And for us, that's giving glory to God in that, even if we're not saying it. And to give you an example of this, in our kitchen area, lounge area in the back, we have a waveform. And if you've ever recorded anything, a sound wave, it makes lines like this, right? It makes lines across the thing. And so Gene and I had been in London, and we went by Abbey Road Studios. And Abbey Road Studios... I was
just thinking about that.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
By the way, first purpose-built studio in the world, 1930s. Wow. It wasn't called Abbey Road Studios. It was called later that. Everybody knows it for the Beatles, but it was very famous before that. Wow. So on their logo, they've got on their shirts and their mugs and everything, there's a waveform, and underneath it says Abbey Road Studios. Well, that waveform is actually someone saying Abbey Road Studios. The legend or the myth is that it's Paul McCartney, but we don't know that for sure. But it says Abbey Road Studios. So when I came back, Amy, who is my business partner here, I told her, I said, we should have something like that around here, but I don't want it to say Insight Studios. We should come up with something else. And so Amy actually came to me and she said, hey, in Matthew chapter 7, Jesus is talking to the 2 blind men, and they said, will you heal us? Which is an interesting thing, because Jesus said, what do you want? And they said, will you heal us? They could have asked for anything, right? They could have said, hey, make us more comfortable, or hey, we need money, or whatever. But they said, because they believed he could heal them, he said, will you heal us? And this is what Jesus said to them. Do you believe I am able? Do you believe I'm able? And they said yes, and he healed them. By their faith, they were healed. By their
faith, they were healed.
So on our wall in our kitchen, there's a big waveform made out of wood back there. And the waveform actually said, when we did it, we recorded it, we saw the waveform, and then we duplicated that in the wood that's back there. And it says, do you believe I am able? So 2 things about that. One is, if you're having a hard day, a business day, it's good for me to walk back there and go, do I believe you're able? Yes is the answer to that. But the other thing it's done is it's caused conversations. People will say, hey, what is that? And I'm able to say, I'm glad you asked. And so we're able to have conversations about God, which hopefully what you hope is, when you have conversations about God, that ultimately it leads somebody to have a conversation with God.
Right on.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris. Well, let me tell you, your waveform has helped spread the kingdom today.
Amen.
And build it. Thank
That's
you.
great.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, my
everybody.
friend.
Chris Thomason with Insight Media and Studios, and we're so glad to get this beautiful space to record our episode today. Thank you for joining us.
Glad you were here. Thanks.
And if you like this episode, please share it, tag it, follow us, and of course, you can always find out more about the Christian Capitalist movement at our website, christiancapitalist.life. I'm Rich Sanders, your host, and thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, at the Christian Capitalist, the more we make, the more we give.